Hello, everybody, and welcome to NBA Sports Talk, episode number 11. I'm your host, Matthew Kaufman, joined alongside co-host Adam Rothschild and Aiden Roman. Guys, it is episode 11. We are rolling right through here on NBA Sports Talk. Let's start with this. We got a lot to discuss this afternoon between the NFL draft over this past weekend, the NBA playoffs finally in full swing, and of course, from baseball news, the Yankees injuries are continuing to pile up, but some on the other news, you got the Pittsburgh Pirates who are rolling as well. So we'll get into all that in just a little bit. First, let's start with we're finally through the first 10 episodes of M&A Sports Talk. How do you guys feel so far as we enter episode 11? Let's start with you, Aiden.
Man, I'm glad that we did start this podcast. We both are able to express our feelings and emotions for all types, for the football, for basketball, and for baseball. And, we click in all those categories. And I'm just really happy that we're on episode 11. And I'm really happy that we are expanding into Spotify as well.
Adam, let's hear your thoughts.
Well, after joining in episode 10, I'm very grateful to have these great conversations with you guys about all this sports talk we've been having, from the Knicks playoff run to the Yankees injuries to now the NFL draft we just had. It's a lot of great stuff we get to talk about. And like Aiden said, expressing our feelings is a great thing that we get to share about what we appreciate about all these sports. And now great getting to talk from our own.
All right, well, now let's kick things off and let's get it started. That's what the NFL draft did. It gets these rookies an opportunity to be in the NFL. Let's start with the first overall pick. Adam, we'll do this one together, and that is Bryce Young going to the Carolina Panthers. He's a guy that has had a great college career in Alabama. He's come up short a couple of times, but he was also behind a guy like Mac Jones, who's now in the New England Patriot system, of course. And he was a Davey O'Brien and Manning Awards at the nation's top quarterback a few years ago. He's a Heisman winner in 2021 when he took over the starting job after Mac Jones left. But now he's going to be in the starting quarterback role of the Carolina Panthers. Adam, kind of walk us through of what has to go right for Bryce Young.
The Panthers just got to get the pieces around Bryce Young. That's going to be the main key, especially in a division like the NFC South with Tom Brady gone, with the Saints not being as much of a production, even though they signed Derek Carr. It's going to be a tough division if they want to beat out New Orleans to try to get at that wild card spot. But they're going to be a young team this year, not try to get a playoff spot. It's going to be one of those sucky rebuilding years again for Carolina, as it's always been for a while now. But they'll be contending in years to come.
Well, let's go to another guy, a childhood friend of Bryce Young and Aiden. That is C.J. Stroud from Ohio State Buckeyes. He's a guy that has really shined in Ohio State. He's 6'3", 214 pounds, but he has really been a top QB in college football, now getting his talents sent to the Houston Texans with a second overall pick. Aiden, what are your thoughts on this pick by Houston?
C.J. Stroud, an amazing quarterback during whole college career. Let me read you the last 2 years of stats for him. In 2021, he played 12 games, throwing 4,435 passing yards. Then you move on one more year. Plays an extra game, 13 games, but a little less on the passing yard side, only 3,600. But I did not see him coming first, obviously. You can't put anybody against Bryce Young, especially in the quarterback position. This draft, as you see Bryce Young going to the national championship, playing an amazing, fortunate loss, but an amazing game by both sides. But at the end of the day, C.J. Stroud, I do see him eventually taking over and hopefully being the franchise quarterback for the Houston Texans.
Now, a guy that a lot of people have compared C.J. Stroud to is Jared Goff, and that's someone that obviously we're familiar with. He's now with the Detroit Lions, but he did spend some time in L.A. with the Rams. He brought the Rams to a Super Bowl, so whenever you're compared to a quarterback that brought a team to a Super Bowl, that's always a good sign, you could say, especially with a guy like C.J. Stroud, who's going to be in an organization with a new head coach in D'Amico Ryan. He's heading back to Houston for the first time after being a player there for the Texans, but now kind of looking ahead for Houston. You got your quarterback. Now you got to it seems to get the weapons for your quarterback. are there any free agents out there, in your point of view, guys, that kind of seem this would be a great opportunity to go out and go get these young stars as receivers to help out your new quarterback, CJ Stroud?
Matt, I don't see any crazy wide receivers out there. I know Odell Beckham just got signed. I don't know if you called that a couple episodes ago, but I know we were talking about the whole Lamar Jackson, but that's a different. We'll talk about that at a different time. But I don't see any crazy notable wide receivers out on the market right now. I think everybody kind of got picked up. Correct me if I'm missing somebody, but obviously there's always time to find those key factors and those young studs like you were mentioning that aren't big names but can go to the big city and make a name for themselves.
Now you look at this Houston Texans team, and it's a team that really has been on the downfall, you could say, because of the way that they've played. And that's not a good way to look at it, to be honest. But at the same time, that's exactly kind of how it happened, because Houston has struggled in a lot of different ways. But you look at what they did at the draft. They went out, they got CJ Stroud, their quarterback. Then they traded with Arizona to get their edge rusher, Will Anderson, which a lot of people did not see coming. They knew they wanted Will Anderson, so they got the pick. They get Anderson. They go back-to-back. But, again, that's building your defense. You need to get the weapons for CJ Stroud. So, for the Houston Texans, this is an opportunity looking ahead to what your team has offensively as weapons, because, again, you need the offense that is going to provide the points. So the main receiver and the leading receiver last year for Houston, let's take a look at this, because this is not where your offense wants to be. Receiving was Brandon Cooks. He only had 699 yards, obviously a yard shy of a 700-yard receiving season. But at the same time, you look at receiving-wise, and Brandon Cooks being your number one receiver, but then you had your running back, Dameon Pierce, who rushed for 939 yards. He had a great year offensively running. But if you look at the third down conversions, and this is where they lack, it seemed like, the run production of the pass production of the offense. On third down conversions this past season, they were 86 for 221. I'll tell you right now, that is not they're 67 and 221. That is not a very good number at all compared to their defense, who held opponents to 86 and 221. Not that you're going to convert on every third down play, but you would like those playmakers that Houston seemed to be missing in the past couple of years to be able to make those plays, and that's what they go out and get CJ Stroud for. So definitely a really good pick by the Houston Texans as we look more ahead to the draft. This is later on in the draft that Seattle Seahawks, Jackson Smith-Njigba, a teammate of CJ Stroud, he talked very, very highly of him, but this is a guy that gets compared a lot to Jarvis Landry, because he is the strength that is unbelievable that this young kid has, the vertical jump, the 40-yard dash that he did not run at the combine, but a broad jump of a 10.5 and a 20-yard shuttle run of 3.9. That's a great speed and great run by this new rookie coming out of Ohio State. He's going to the Seattle Seahawks. Bijan Robinson, another really big name that Atlanta Falcons drafted. He's a guy that so many people look at Josh Jacobs for, because Josh Jacobs runs like a beast, and that's exactly what Bijan Robinson does. And let's talk about a guy, Aiden, that me and you were mentioning, and we mentioned it before we got on air here, Jalen Hyatt, the newest Giants receiver. I'll tell you one thing. He's a guy that has really been impressive during his college career, but another guy that has the playmaking ability for these New York Football Giants.
As soon as you mentioned that name, I put a smile on my face. Daniel Jones already happy to have Jalen Hyatt on the team. I know we texted him saying if he is ready, and Jalen Hyatt said absolutely. He's ready to play in the Big Apple. Hopefully he could be, just like Daniel Jones, a franchise wide receiver for Daniel Jones, the franchise quarterback at this time. Now, I have a question for you, Matt and Adam. I'm going to ask you both. I'm going to start off with Adam. Do you see Daniel Jones being the quarterback for the New York Giants for the rest of his career?
I'm gonna say no, and for one reason and one reason only. He's not gonna last his whole career in New York. He's gonna end up having that veteran leadership when the Giants are gonna slowly, give up on him. And there's gonna be other teams that are just gonna want to have him as like a backup quarterback, probably just to provide leadership to the young quarterbacks that come in the foreseeable future. So that's one thing I could see. And obviously another thing, of course, he could finish his career with the New York Giants, just like Eli Manning did.
What do you think about that, Matt?
I'm sorry, Adam, but I got to disagree with you with this. Now, obviously, the Giants did have the question of, is Daniel Jones their guy? Is the guy that Dave Gettleman drafted their guy? I'm going to be honest with you. It really depends on this season, because if you look ahead to this season upcoming for the New York Giants, they're going to be playing, obviously, the three division teams in the NFC East, the Eagles, the Commanders, and the Cowboys. And they also got to play the AFC East. That is not an easy-looking division, I'll tell you. Tua Tagovailoa is the Miami Dolphins quarterback. Josh Allen for Buffalo. The New York Jets, they just got the biggest name in all of sports right now. It seems like Aaron Rodgers going over there. And then the New England Patriots, who knows what's going to happen with that. So I think if there's a year to prove the ability of Daniel Jones to play, it is this season at MetLife Stadium in the Big Apple, in East Rutherford, New Jersey, and prove to the Giants fans and to all the Daniel Jones haters that he is your franchise quarterback. And I want to tell you right now, if you look at the numbers from Daniel Jones from his rookie year in 2019, when he played 13 games during the regular season, he was 284 for 459 completions, 24 touchdown passes, 12 interceptions. He was also sacked 38 times in those games. Let's look ahead to last year's numbers. In 16 games played, 317 completions, 472 yards. Yes, the touchdown passes were lower with only 15, but he had 5 interceptions. Yes, he was also sacked 44 times. But then let's look at the rushing numbers and the fumbles that he had, the turnover issues that Daniel Jones had. In his rookie year in 2019, he had 6 fumbles while rushing the football. Last year, he only had 2. Now let's look at the rushing touchdowns. You know how I said he had 15 passing touchdowns? He had 7 rushing touchdowns as well. So if we do the math, those are a lot better numbers for Daniel Jones. And for the Giants, that's exactly what you want to see. Compared to the last year numbers, when he only had 2 rushing touchdowns and 10 passing touchdowns, to this year's 15 passing touchdowns, 5 interceptions, 7 touchdown runs, and only 2 fumbles lost. Plus, you got to go back to 2021 when he had that Odell Beckham Jr.-like catch with the one-hander against the Carolina Panthers. So he is definitely seeming like he's progressed. And I'll tell you, if he's a good year this year, I could see Daniel Jones being a Giant a lot longer than the 4-year contract if he continues to progress.
Now, Matt, talking about somebody that continues to progress, somebody also looking to make a statement here for himself after being franchise tagged, Saquon Barkley, coming off an amazing year, 16 games played, 295 rushes for 1,300 yards and 10 touchdowns. What an amazing year Daniel Jones and Saquon Barkley had. Now, do I see Saquon Barkley being the future running back of the Giants? I would say hopefully so. An amazing young quarterback, only 26 years old. Hopefully the Giants are able to get a deal done. So our weapons offensively will be Jalen Hyatt, Saquon Barkley, Darren Waller, and Daniel Jones.
Now, Aiden, I'm going to go, and Adam, I know you're going to love this reference. I'm going to go a little Stephen A. Smith mode on you here, because I'm going to agree with that. And I love the fact that Saquon Barkley has another chance with the Giants. And this is a guy that needs to be on the field. He needs to be healthy. He needs to be running the football. The Giants have to get him the ball. He had 10 rushing touchdowns this season. He had 1,312 yards and 295 rushing attempts. Receiving, he didn't have a single touchdown. You go back to his rookie year, he had 4 receiving touchdowns and 11 rushing touchdowns in that season. He didn't have those numbers, but he also had a very intense year, and he had a very productive year after coming off the injury. So, yes, I do see Saquon Barkley, hopefully, as you said, signing a new contract with the New York Giants, but he has to have a progressed year as well, and he has to play as well as he did again, just like last year. Now, let's take a look at another guy for the New York Giants, Adam, and this is going to kind of wrap things up for us. Let's talk about, the New York Jets. That's the connection between Allen Lazard and Aaron Rodgers. And Adam, I know you're a big Jets fan, so you'll have a little more information on this. But Aaron Rodgers and Allen Lazard, it seems like you haven't been able to separate those two. You look at Madison Square Garden, they've been all over the Garden. They were there for the Ranger Devils game. Then they were there for the Knicks Miami Heat game. They are here in New York, and they're looking to make a statement in 2023 for the New York Jets.
Yeah, absolutely. Bringing Allen Lazard in was, of course, a huge factor for bringing in Aaron Rodgers and also bringing in Nathaniel Hackett after the rough season he had with the Denver Broncos. That was a huge bonus to bring in, and they knew this trade was going to happen. It was just a matter of the timing and getting the draft picks right because we knew there was going to be a lot of picks involved with this trade for a quarterback like Aaron Rodgers.
Well, we're going to take a quick time out here on M&A Sports Talk. Coming up next, the NBA playoffs. That's right. We got some good playoff matchups coming to an end. The Sacramento Kings and the Golden State Warriors. What a series that was. We'll have more on that. Knicks and the Heat, their series just underway as they beat the Cavaliers and the Miami Heat beat the Bucks, and so many more games to talk about, so many more players to talk about. And then at the end, of course, we got baseball to wrap things up. We'll take a quick time out on M&A Sports Talk, episode number 11. Well, welcome back to M&A Sports Talk. I'm Matthew Kaufman, once again alongside Adam Rothschild. That's Aiden Roman. We got some more to talk about. Let's start with the basketball side of things, and that's the NBA playoffs. Adam, why don't you kick things off for us with how well the Knicks played in that series against the Cleveland Cavaliers as they wound up winning that series to now face the Miami Heat.
Yeah, the Knicks, they embarrassed the heck out of the Cleveland Cavaliers in that first-round series, and they just outplayed the Twin Towers, of course, Jared Allen and Evan Mobley, and Donovan Mitchell just did not have the playoff series that many expected he would have for the Cleveland Cavaliers. And, of course, the Knicks bench helped out a lot, and Randall and Brunson and Barrett and Josh Hart all stepped up big, as well as Mitchell Robinson. Isaiah Hartenstein stepped up. And, of course, on Sunday, they lost that game one against the Miami Heat, which was a crucial loss. And, of course, they didn't have Julius Randle. And going into game two tomorrow night against the Heat, they are questionable right now for Jalen Brunson and Julius Randle. And Jimmy Butler, of course, is questionable with that ankle injury. So we're going to see what happens with the Knicks tomorrow night. Hopefully they get a win to tie the series up because the chances of them coming back against the Heat from down 0-2 are slim to none at this point.
Yeah, and, you talk about what the Knicks have done and their recent history, and it's unfortunate because looking ahead to the series, no, I don't want to jinx anything, but they're 0-7 once losing the first game at Madison Square Garden. So now you mentioned Julius Randle. He's out with the ankle injury for game one in the semifinals against the Miami Heat. Aiden, how does that affect the New York Knicks style of offense?
Just looking at the score, Matt, it wasn't a crazy blowout loss for the New York Knicks. We did lose by 7, 108-101. I'm not worried about the next 6 games of the series. I would say Butler, we held him, or I would say we neutralized him to only 25 points after an amazing game against the Bucks that Butler had. But with Randle coming back, hopefully game 2, and the Knicks almost full throttle and full strength, I do believe with the help of RJ Barrett, who's suddenly found the 3-ball this postseason, I do believe that the Knicks will be able to power through the Miami Heat.
Yeah, and another guy that we talked about last week on episode number 10 of M&A Sports Talk, that was Josh Hart, who really surprised a lot of people coming into the series because we didn't know how he was going to perform in the playoffs. What is Josh Hart going to be able to do offensively? Adam, we've seen it in the 2 games that me and you did this past Sunday and the Sunday before that, the hustle that Josh Hart brings to this Knicks offense and to the defense.
The man's a dog, and he's proved it so much. You see the point average he's got. He's the second. He's one of the best rebounding guards in the league, and that's a stat that not many people look at because he can rebound, and he's the one who just pushes straight up the floor, and that's something that the Knicks have needed for a long time. And him with Jalen Brunson, the two Villanova guys together, it's great to have them two together, and just the chemistry that they bring to the Knicks is something that we've needed for the past 10 years.
Yeah, and if you look ahead, well, let's take a look at what the next or the rest of this series brings. You got the next game tomorrow against the Heat at Madison Square Garden for Game 2. Then you got Games 3 and 4 in Miami. Game 5 would be in New York if necessary. Game 6 back in Miami if necessary. Then you got Game 7 at the Garden if necessary. How big does having home court advantage against the Miami Heat team that we know they're not out until that final buzzer buzzes in any arena that they play in? How big is having home court advantage in this series?
I would say it is extremely important for the New York Knicks. An unfortunate loss, but you saw what the Knicks did to the Cleveland Cavaliers and any other team all season long. When they came to MSG, it was a different atmosphere, a different vibe. The Knicks fans were alive, taunting, and the Knicks just played a whole lot better. You saw what they did to Donovan Mitchell. They all played amazing. But like I said before, Barrett finding free ball. Julius Randle, with the injury, still playing. But the amount of cheers and the vibe and atmosphere, like I just said, at MSG is huge. And I could say no other place in the NBA has that type of atmosphere.
Well, you know how the Seattle Seahawks have the 12th man? It sounds like there's about 12,000 more at Madison Square Garden when the Knicks are in MSG, and it really helps. And we've heard the noise that Madison Square Garden brings and how loud that place gets. Now, obviously, every playoff atmosphere is loud, but there's players on both sides from the Knicks and opposing teams that say it doesn't get louder than Madison Square Garden. And as we mentioned, it's such an advantage, whoever the home team is, throughout the playoffs. Now, let's talk about another advantage, and that could be for Julius Randle, who's not going to be in the starting, was not in the starting lineup yesterday for Game 1. Questionable for Game 2. But another guy is questionable, Jimmy Butler.
Yeah, Jimmy Butler rolled his ankle after Josh Hart tripped him in the fourth quarter. That was with about 5 minutes left to go in the game. And you saw the training staff coming over, and it looked bad at first, but he was hobbling at first, and he felt fine, and they played the rest of the game. And you heard the interview with Cassidy Hubbarth after at the post game, and he said it felt like a rolled ankle, and it definitely looked like it for sure.
Yeah, he was even taking practice shots. He was kind of lining up his way to see how he was going to shoot it in with that bummed ankle. So definitely something to keep an eye on for the New York Knicks throughout the rest of the week to see how they kind of go about it if Butler is not in the starting lineup or if he's not in the game. And another thing that has really been a good thing for the New York Knicks, it's been the guys that have stepped up. Obi Toppin stepped up big in Game 1 when Julius Randle was not in the lineup. Josh Hart, who stepped up big. Jalen Brunson, who stepped up big. But you mentioned another guy. He is the bear claw of that New York Knicks offense, Mitchell Robinson. Just throw it up to him and let him slam that thing down. It looks so nice when watching Mitchell Robinson slam the basketball. How big of a weapon is that for the New York Knicks?
I mean, when you have somebody averaging 8 to 10 points and basically a double-double every single game with a 100% possibility of getting 2+ blocks, especially in a playoff game, it's a big advantage. Mitchell Robinson always dealt with injuries with the Knicks, especially early on in the season. But coming off the injury earlier in the season, he has been a monster, especially carrying into this postseason. Just an absolute defensive masterpiece along with an offensive masterpiece. I don't know if you guys saw that Barrett dribbling through 2 or 3 defenders near the paint and just throwing it up and hoping Mitchell Robinson can get there for the alley-oop, and of course he does.
Yeah, and obviously, you look at what this Knicks team has done and the struggles kind of that have been brought to the level that the Knicks have had, the struggles really that the Knicks have had without some names in the lineup like Julius Randle, Josh Hart, Jalen Brunson. Mitchell Robinson. So having him in there and just be able to get the big fella in the paint is always a huge bonus. Now, let's go to another really, really good series. Adam, Aiden, we talked about it last week. The Golden State Warriors and the Sacramento Kings. I'll tell you one thing, that has to be the best series we have seen in a long time, back and forth.
Now, any Game 7 is intense. Don't get me wrong. But when you have teams or fans, that are saying light the beam, and you decide that you could have done this, in my opinion, Curry could have done this since Game 1. But you saw he was passing the ball a lot the first 6 games. Passing the ball a lot, trying to get his teammates involved, trying to get JP3 started, but it just wasn't going for the Warriors. They're down 2-0 quickly. They come up 3-2. They dropped Game 6 at home, which I did believe Klay Thompson would have ended it right there. But going into Game 7, the Warriors, the Kings, had the advantage. But I guess, in my opinion, something clicked between Steve Kerr and Curry, and Steve Kerr definitely had a talk with him saying, hey, we need you to step up right now and not pass the ball as much, and Curry did exactly that. I'm pretty sure he was like 19 for 38, dropping 50 points in a crucial Game 7 win against the Kings.
Played in last week, Game 6 play, Game 7 Steph. I'll tell you that. He was phenomenal last night against the Sacramento Kings, as you mentioned, dropping 50 points, an NBA all-time record in a Game 7. Now, Adam, you look to what that series meant for both of these teams. Sacramento hasn't hosted a playoff game. They haven't been in the playoffs. They get there, but then they fall short to the Warriors.
Yeah, Steph Curry, as I've said before, is the greatest shooter that God has ever created. It's as simple as that. 50 points, the most in a Game 7 ever, and I'm not surprised because he basically just shut down the beam in Sacramento. That's what he did. And now we get the transition to this now. He gets to play against LeBron James in the second round of the playoffs. And that rivalry is back. Everyone thought that Steph versus LeBron was done. That's back now. So now we get to watch a great second round series between the Warriors and the Los Angeles Lakers.
Yeah, I was looking at that the other day and seeing that you're going to get to see Golden State Warriors, Steph Curry versus the Los Angeles Lakers and LeBron James, 2 for sure future Hall of Famers. And looking at it right now, this has to be probably the most anticipated matchup between these two. This is everything for these two guys, especially trying to make it to the conference finals of the playoffs. So what do these two teams need to do? Adam, I'll give you the Warriors. Aiden, I'll give you the Lakers. Adam, we'll start with you. What do the Warriors have to do to surpass the LA Lakers and head their way to another conference final?
The Lakers, not the Lakers, the Warriors. The Warriors do have an advantage in this series, having Game 1 and 2 on their home floor. But the Lakers, oh my God, the Warriors have the shooting. They have Kevon Looney, who's going to out-rebound Anthony Davis in this series, because Anthony Davis is not going to be able to play against Kevon Looney in all of these matchups with the rebounding. Looney got 22 rebounds in that Game 7 against Sacramento, and that's going to be something to look at. They're going to have Anthony Davis not playing every game. That's probably going to happen, and the Lakers are not going to be able to come through with that. But this is going to be a physical series, and of course the shooting is going to come out first.
Now, I heard you mention the shooting's going to come out first. In my opinion, the Lakers just have to but neutralize Curry as much as possible. You know what I mean? Curry, obviously, just got 50 points, coming off an amazing game. Now, the Lakers should be not terrified, but should be as much rested as they can. You see what the Stephen Curry effect has on the point guards guarding him. You see how the point guard's tired out, and Curry's there, zoned in and ready to keep going, keep pushing for the Warriors win. Now, in my opinion, I'm going to give you a little rundown on how I think the games are going to go. Game 1, I do see the Warriors winning with Curry, just based off how amazing he did in the last performance. I do think LeBron and the Lakers will take Game 2. And I think the LeBron and Lakers will go up 2-1, and then the Warriors win 3 in a row and go straight to the conference finals.
Wow, Warriors winning 3-0. So I know you mentioned that I have the NFL script. If you're right, I say we give you the NBA script. I'll give you the credit for that. I'll give you the credit if that happens. We'll have to rewatch this next week and see what happens with that series. And another series, Adam, that we're looking forward to, that is, of course, the Suns and the Nuggets. How does that kind of play out?
Well, the Denver Nuggets are they're probably the most underrated number one seed that we've had in a long, long time because of the depth they have. And when you look at the Phoenix Suns, their bench, they traded their entire bench basically for Kevin Durant. They got rid of Mikal Bridges and Cam Johnson, of course. And all that's left on their bench is Landry Shamet, Bismack Biyombo, and some other players that they have on their bench. Besides their starting lineup, that's where they're getting most of their productivity from. The bench is not going to help them one bit. Denver has the better bench in this series, and I see Denver winning this in 6 games. Obviously, the Suns are going to be favored, of course, with Chris Paul, Kevin Durant, Devin Booker, and DeAndre Ayton. But the matchups do favor in Denver, I think, because they have more of a spread with the depth and the shooting, and of course with the 2-time reigning MVP Nikola Jokic. So I expect Denver to win this series and go back to the conference finals.
Now, as much as I want to agree with you, Adam, I just can't. I do see Kevin Durant turning up. I know he did have 7 turnovers, almost half of what the team turnovers were, and he was a little disappointed during the press conference about that. But 100% he will work on it, and Kevin Durant will get it going. I mean, he dropped a double-double, 14 rebounds, 29 points. But the main factor, a big reason on why they lost is Chris Paul couldn't really get it going, playing 32 minutes, dropping 11 points and 5 assists. For me, I see Chris Paul as at least 16, 17 points and definitely over 10 assists type of guy in the playoffs. He's done it before during the regular season. I'm pretty sure he could continue it during the postseason.
Now, Aiden, you mentioned get going. How do these two guys get going and get the Suns going in this kind of series between the Nuggets?
You know, in my opinion, I don't think that Kevin Durant and Chris Paul should be on the floor at all times together. Chris Paul, one of the best assist players or pass first point guards in the league. But Kevin Durant, you give him the ball, he's not meant to just sit corner or sit wing and wait for the ball to be passed to him. He is a facilitator. He likes to have the ball in his hands. But he was in Brooklyn with Kyrie. Even though Kyrie was the point guard, he did give Kevin Durant his fair share of, buckets and his own time to facilitate and dribble and break down the defense. But when you have Chris Paul, who is struggling, I think you don't give Chris Paul as many minutes and let Kevin Durant kind of take over with DeAndre and Devin Booker.
Yeah, and I think that's a very valid idea because you see kind of what this team brings in the Suns. They're a good team. The problem is, as Adam mentioned, it's the bench that doesn't have as much depth to go into, the big guys that can come in and make those big shots when needed most. So that's definitely a issue, maybe a concern for later on throughout the series, and maybe even if the Suns do accomplish the Denver Nuggets and head on to the conference final to face the Lakers or the Warriors, this is an opportunity that you kind of have to see forward and look and maybe next year say, hey, maybe this needs to go more towards the bench this offseason. Obviously, you want to get some big players for your starting lineups, but the bench could be a concern as well. So before we finish this talk here, let's talk about the 76ers versus the Boston Celtics. That's the final series to mention. Adam, let's start with you on this one. This is a series that could go either way, it seems like.
Yeah, we have game 1 going on currently right now. Joel Embiid, as we heard, is not playing today. He will most likely be back in game 2. It's currently just about halftime. Boston is currently up by 3, 63-60. And the main factors, of course, it's going to be Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown for the Celtics and James Harden and Embiid for the Sixers. This might be one of those 6-7 game series because we know Boston and Philly, Joel Embiid hasn't claimed it as a rivalry, but these two teams have played each other in the playoffs before. And if it isn't a rivalry after this year, then I don't know what to say at this point if the Celtics don't win this series.
I heard you mention James Harden and Joel Embiid. With Joel Embiid being out, the two leading scorers for the 76ers right now is James Harden with 21 points and 4 assists, followed by DeAnthony Melton with 1 assist, 1 rebound, and 17 points. Now you look on the other page in the Celtics, you have a little bit more spread. Three main shooters in double digits. You have Jason Tatum, of course, with 24 points. Jaylen Brown is no doubter, 15 points, and Malcolm Brogdon with 14 points. Now Robert Williams only has 4 points and 3 rebounds. I know he's only played 11 minutes, but personally, seeing what he did ever since coming back from the injury during the regular season, I do see him going off this series and possibly carrying the Celtics to a series win.
Well, let's take a look at something real quick. And the Celtics are 23-1. This includes the playoffs when Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown both score 30 points. So that's something to look forward to throughout this entire series. A little fun fact for you. Well, we're going to get ready to wrap things up. But before that, we're going to take one more break as we get ready to shift over to the baseball side of things. A lot to talk about, including the Yankees struggles, the injuries, and the standings. Pirates are in first place in the NL Central. We'll talk about that when we come back right here on M&A Sports Talk. Well, welcome back to M&A Sports Talk. Once again, I'm Matthew Kaufman, joined alongside Adam Rothschild and Aiden Roman, the co-host here on M&A Sports Talk. Episode number 11, in full swing as we get ready to kind of wind things down a little bit. Let's end it with a little bit of baseball. Let's start with the struggles of the New York Yankees. Adam, let's start with you here. It has really, really been a struggle with the pitching side of things, the offense. It just all seems to be gone downhill for New York.
The injury bug, it does not know how to leave us. It will stay with us forever. Aaron Judge is now on the 10-day IL with that hip strain. Harrison Bader is hopefully coming back soon. But as we know, the list, we have a lot of key players out right now. But this gives, like I said this last week when we were talking about it, the young guys, they get more chances. The young guys get more chances. Anthony Volpe, Peraza, Cabrera, all these, and Anthony Volpe, of course. And here's the one thing we got to say. Aaron Hicks should not be on this team right now. He should absolutely not be on this team right now. He is struggling. This is something that Brian Cashman in the front office should have focused on in the offseason, trying to find another place for him. And the Yankees, of course, did not do that. And that's something they got to focus on to get all these players back.
Now, I will touch on the Aaron Hicks, but I heard you, Adam, talk about let's give the new guys a chance. Let's see what the young prospects can do. And, if they're better than Aaron Hicks. But, talking about the new guys, caught up to Aaron Judge as we send down Francis Cordero, Jake Bowers. What an amazing play against Saturday's loss to the Rangers, unfortunate loss. But sliding right into the wall after making an unbelievable catch that I don't know if any other Yankee player besides Judge and Bader would have made playing left field. But what an amazing play by him. Unfortunately, he did have to go get an MRI. It is only a knee contusion, so he should be back before the Judge. I think Judge is only going to be out for another week. But I think he is scheduled to come back May 8th against the Oakland A's. But I know me and Matt and Adam were talking about the injury bug before the podcast. Now, let's go down the list real quick. We got Harrison Bader, Aaron Judge, the captain, Luis Severino, Donaldson, Loizaga, Rodon, Giancarlo Stanton, Lou Trevino, Frankie Montas, Scott Efros, Luis Gil, and Tommy Kahnle. Now, Matt, I have a question for you. What do you think the athletic trainers are they scared for their job right now? Everybody's getting hurt. Are they doing their job?
I think it's just that the fact that it's not that the athletic trainers aren't doing their job. It's really the things that have occurred for the New York Yankees. I mean, the thing with Jake Bowers, that was on a play that he injured himself. Aaron Judge, same thing. He's sitting at third base. That kind of started everything, it seemed like, for Aaron Judge's injury. Then that swing in Texas really finished it off. Giancarlo Stanton's injury, him playing the field again. But it just seems like it's the players that are kind of enforcing the injury. Obviously, not that they're planning to get injured, but it's the fact that during play, it's happening. It's not that it's happening because of the athletic trainer. And don't get me wrong, I love the athletic training staff. Stevie Donahue has done such a great job for the New York Yankees in his entire career with the organization. But most of these injuries are in-game injuries, like Stanton, like Judge, like Bowers. Obviously, the Yankees would love to get rid of that and just play baseball and be the New York Yankees. And that's the problem. The injuries have been the biggest issue. And it's a bug. I mentioned it last week. The fly in the house that just doesn't leave. Sometimes we name him Fred. The Yankees, they can't have a name for him because it just seems like there's a new one every single day. And for the Yankees, I'll tell you one thing. Once they kill that injury bug, I have a feeling this team turns around and really gets going again. But someone who has been going for the Yankees, it's been, as you mentioned, Adam and Aiden, the young guys. Anthony Volpe, he has been a key factor for the New York Yankees in these last couple of games. And Adam, the Yankees right now, you look, if you're listening to this live here on Spotify, but it's 2-0 New York over the Guardians. This is a big series because after this 3-game series, then you got to head to the Trop in Tampa Bay to play the scorching hot Tampa Bay Rays. Now, if you're the Yankees, you got to win the series against the Guardians. You got to win this game. You got to win the game after, and you got to hope that you could start beating the Tampa Bay Rays. Because I'll tell you one thing, the more you fall behind now, the harder it's going to be later on. Another big issue for the Yankees, and we were talking about this earlier today also, it's been the pitching. There's no doubt about it. Nestor Cortez struggled tremendously yesterday. Johnny Brito has struggled. Domingo Germán has struggled. Don't get me wrong. Germán looks absolutely fantastic right now. 7 one-hit innings. He has pitched 7 strong innings, allowing just 1 hit for the New York Yankees in their 2-0 lead over the Guardians. He has 4 strikeouts, 1 walk. Obviously, is not allowed to run, but 0 Guardian players have reached scoring position. That's how big it is for the New York Yankees in pitching, and that's what they need more of. Not the Brito struggles, not the Cortez struggle yesterday in Texas. Garrett Cole has really been the only consistent starting pitcher for the Yankees. They need more of Garrett Cole. He can't pitch 5 games in a week. They need the guys like Rodon and Severino to come back.
Now, I heard you say the words "get it going," and Garrett Cole. Ever since it seems like ever since the postseason last year, after being mocked by Josh Naylor, he has been on his game. 5-0, a little over 1.1 ERA, 44 strikeouts. What hasn't he done for the New York Yankees? He's helped us win every single game. In fact, he's played. He's even pitched a complete game in his 3rd start of the season. If this doesn't show you a guy who wants to win championships and wants to do as much as he can for the team, I know last postseason against the Guardians, coming into Game 5 after pitching Game 3, Garrett Cole said to Aaron Boone that he is able to play and pitch Game 5. Now, obviously, Nestor Cortez took that starting role, and after a big 3-run blast by Giancarlo Stanton that powered the Yankees to advance to play the Houston Astros, Garrett Cole has just been elite, and I agree with you. We need Rodon to come back. We need Severino to come back. Right now, Germán's doing his thing, having a pretty good game so far, but we need better pitching. That's what it comes down to. Everybody's in our bullpen, or a lot of people in our bullpen are hurt. I'm really waiting for Loaiza to come back. He is just such a crucial arm with that sinker. It is unbelievable.
Yeah, and, let's go back to 2019 when Garrett Cole was 19-0 from May 22nd to Game 1 of the World Series against the Washington Nationals. That's how unstoppable Garrett Cole was. Do you think he could be that unstoppable for the New York Yankees this year, the way that he started off the season, Adam?
Yeah, definitely, because he's like Aiden said before, the man's been the only consistent pitcher for the Yankees this season, and that's the only consistency they've gotten so far, and that's what they're going to get most likely all the way through the month of May down into Memorial Day weekend and into June, unless they get Rodon back and Severino back hopefully soon. And when it comes to the hitting side, Harrison Bader is hopefully going to be back later this week, or if not, in the series against the Tampa Bay Rays, which should be a huge bonus for the Yankees.
Well, let's go from the Yankees, who are in last place, to a complete surprise. A team in first place, the Pittsburgh Pirates. Aiden, it puts a smile on my face at a team like this. We really struggled last year. We really struggled the year before. But they are lighting up Major League Baseball right now. In the month of April, they were 20-9. And tomorrow they'll start a 3-game series against the other best team in baseball in the American League, the 23-6 Tampa Bay Rays.
You know, you look at the roster and the stuff. A couple names stand out to me. You know, you got Brian Hayes, an amazing third baseman for the Pirates. You got Brian Reynolds. This is a statement year after, just before, I'm pretty sure he got signed a couple days ago to 8 years. But before that, he was struggling. He didn't really know where he was going to land up. During the offseason, you know, was he going to be in a trade? Was he not going to be in a trade? Then you got somebody like, is it Andrew McCutchen, the veteran in him? Is that helping the Pittsburgh Pirates, you know, his return to the Pirates? Is that helping him with all the rookies? Like another name that stands out, Miguel Andujar, having a good season so far, showing what he could have been on the Yankees, but unfortunately did leave after being caught up too many times.
Yeah, and let's look at the NL Central. Let's dive into it a little bit. A St. Louis Cardinals team that a lot of teams really expected to be good this year after making the playoffs last year, losing to the Phillies in the wild card round. Cincinnati Reds, well, they've been on the downfall, it seems like, the last few years. The Chicago Cubs, everyone thought, hey, the Chicago Cubs just got Dansby Swanson, Cody Bellinger, and a lot of other key acquisitions during this free agency, but they're still in third place. The Milwaukee Brewers have been on a roll. They're 18-10, but the Pittsburgh Pirates, there's no doubt about it, they are a surprise here in 2023. And talking about surprises, unfortunately, that is going to do it here of episode 11 of M&A Sports Talk. Once again, joined alongside Aiden Roman and Adam Rothschild. I'm Matthew Kaufman saying so long and enjoy your week of M&A Sports Talk. We got episode 12 for you next week on YouTube and Spotify. Don't forget to check us out on our upcoming Instagram page, our YouTube channel of M&A Sports Talk, and now on Spotify for episode number 11 of M&A Sports Talk. Have a good week and see you next time.